At times, repairing cars can be difficult and that you have to go through the emotions. In my case, I've had quite a tough time getting the engine on this car situated. And now let's go for test drive number 3. But before we get to test drive number 3, we should know what happened in test drive number 2. Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. Well, I guess today's the D-Day right here. Obviously the Honda Accord is out of my home and it's right here on some tarred surface. So I've been driving it for a while. I think I put about 15 miles on it already, and well, I'll let you decide on what I think about it. So let's go for a drive. What? Now that was strange. Done about almost 16 miles already. No check engine light. I'm wondering why it took so long to start, but glad it's running now. So let's go for a drive. I guess things really need to settle in after all the major repairs done. So let me get my seatbelt on and then get going. Unfortunately, I look behind and I think I see white smoke. So probably got a blown head. Well, the check engine light is flashing, so I'm gonna check what cylinder has a problem. Yeah, we have a flashing check engine light. So let's see how it goes. So with my scan tool connected and all the initial checks done, let's go read the codes right now. Whoa, so we have about 16 codes. Okay, the first 2 codes are ABS related codes for the right front wheel speed sensor and the left front wheel speed sensors. That's definitely why the ABS and traction control lights are on. And then we have P0301, 302, 303, 304, 5, 6, and random is fire. Okay, pendant, 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 pendant. So those are all the codes we have for random cylinder misfire. And right now we don't have a check engine light staying on, so I'm suspecting there's a problem with the cylinder head gasket, but right now I'm not sure what bank the issue is right at, so I'm going to allow the car cool off appreciably so that I can at least get me home safely. So that's what I'm going to do. There are no codes to clear because all the codes were pending and we're yet to have a check engine light. So while the car cools, I'm going to look under the hood to check out for any obvious signs while we're billowing out steam from the muffler. So right now I can't see any leaks from under the hood. I waited about an hour already to allow the whole cooling system cool appreciably. So I can't see any external leaks. So obviously one of the head gaskets was leaking, but I'm not sure on what bank the leak was from. So my plan is to get myself home first, which is most important, and then afterwards I'll allow the engine cool down, and then using my bore scope I'll look into each of the 6 cylinders. It's likely I find some traces of water, and that would guide me on what to do next. Right now my suspicion is on this bank right here because we worked on the one at the back. We're yet to work on this, so probably we have more surprises on this bank. So that's where I'm at right now. So catch you when I get home. Before setting out on my journey home, let's see how the car runs after having cooled down for about an hour. So I have the key in there. So it runs, obviously, no misfire. So I'll allow it warm up a bit so that we don't get hydro-locked. At this point, I was really trying to be optimistic. By the way, home was about 4 miles away, not so far, but at the same time, was kind of far and scary. A lot of things were running through my mind. Was the head gasket blown again on the side we walked on, or on the other side where we didn't have to take apart? One thing was just obvious. I had to get home and had to get home really fast. A car breakdown is not something I wish on anybody because, yes, cars help out a lot, but when they do break down, they can be really disappointing. So, how did I get home? I had barely driven a quarter of a mile when it was obvious the car wasn't going to make it in the present condition. The engine was really sputtering and the coolant temperature gauge was spiking towards the high point. I pulled over to a safe place and had to get home by public transport. I did another quick scan and discovered that the issue was with cylinders 1 and 2, the side we actually worked on. In order to get home, my plan was to take out the spark plugs on cylinders 1 and 2 and then also take out the coolant thermostat so that the pressure inside the cooling system was going to be kept at a minimum. We had really come this far and I wasn't trying to lose the engine through hydro-locking. So, getting back to the car using my bicycle and some necessary tools, I took out the ignition coils on cylinders 1 and 2 and also the spark plugs. Also, I took out the coolant thermostats that was located right here and filled the system back with water and obviously loaded the bicycle in the trunk. I was set to go home. The car revved high and moved relatively easily, but as time went on, I noticed that power was getting lower and lower. Probably the ignition timer was getting retarded because the computer knew that something was definitely wrong with the engine. The car barely made it up some moderate hills and it eventually got me home. By the time I got home, the coolant was low and was beginning to run very hot. So that was how I got home. After thinking about the whole issue for a bit, I came to the definite conclusion that the cylinder head on bank 1 that we worked on was definitely warped. So this time around, I decided to take out the 2 cylinder heads on 2 banks to avoid any future surprises. I took apart the engine again and I was glad to realize that the helical thread inserts we put in bank 1 were really holding up and were in good condition. In order to get different results, it's necessary to do things differently. So this time around, my plan was to check the cylinder heads for warpage and if any was found to resurface them accordingly without going to a machine shop because I couldn't think of anyone around me. And I wanted the car back on the road as soon as possible. I'll be checking for warpage on this cylinder head using a towel. Yes, this towel is about 5 inches by 17 inches. And basically what I'm going to do is using the factory cut edge of the piece of towel and a feeler gauge. This is a 0.02 of an inch feeler gauge or 0.05 mm. I'm going to place the towel on the cylinder head surface this way and then I'm going to try to slide the feeler gauge across. So right here we can see the feeler gauge goes under. Here it also goes under at the edges. It can pass through. So this cylinder head is warped. Checking along other planes on this angle, catches on there, also catches but passes through, doesn't pass through at all. Cylinder head is definitely warped. Because the cylinder head is warped, using the same towel and some 80 grit sandpaper, I wrapped the towel using the sandpaper this way, and then using some painter's tape I attached the edges to the towel, and then applying equal pressure I ran the towel flat on the cylinder head to shave the surface down a bit. So that was how I got the surface looking this way using a piece of tile. By the way, this tile is about 5 inches by 17 inches and about an inch, or let me say, I would say about half an inch thick. Because the cylinder head is warped and ideally I should be replacing the cylinder head, but I still want to try to use the old one. This is the multi-layer steel gasket I had on the other side. It's quite thin. I'll be replacing the head gasket with this. I think this is called a graphite head gasket. It's much thicker than the multi-layer steel and likely to take up all the gaps that would have been created by the warpage. So this is what I'll be using. So comparing the two, this is much thinner than this. So I'm going to place the gasket on there right now and then get the cylinder head. Obviously I have the surface carefully prepped and ready for the cylinder head gasket installation. So checking the orientation carefully. Now I'm going to place it on there. Obviously I have my dowels in place right here and right here. So I'm going to push the head gasket in place and set it down. So with the cylinder head gaskets replaced with the graphite version on both banks, put everything back together. Had to replace an O-ring on one of the major coolant pipes. Upon startup, the check engine light flashed a bit, probably because there was water in the positive crankcase ventilation system, but that cleared out. The engine runs smooth now, and so I guess it's time for test drive number 3. It's been long coming. Let's get it. So starting it up, yeah, I've been driving for a while, covered about 14 miles today. So this time around, starts up good. No hesitation upon starting, so that's a good sign. So let's go for a drive. I'm getting my seatbelt on. Yeah, with my seatbelt fully fixed, let's get going. By the way, I still have ABS and traction lights on, including the brake light. I'm yet to replace the 2 wheel speed sensors up front because I'll need to clear out all the remnants of the old sensors, and that would also take care of the traction control light. Also, when you have a problem with the ABS, the brake light also comes on. But in my case, I have an additional problem in that the sensor inside the brake fluid master reservoir is faulty. So I'm going to try cleaning it out the reservoir when I'm doing the brake fluid change. So I'm hoping that resolves it. If not, I'll have to replace the brake fluid reservoir. So let's go for a drive. So I'm in reverse now. I have a backup camera, but it's quite low res. So obviously, as you can see, I don't have the check engine light on. That's a good sign. The radiator fans just went off. I still have an issue with the power steering. It whines and doesn't have much assist at idle. So I'll get that probably replaced much later. But it's nothing urgent. So drive's good. Like I said, I've been driving it for a while and I noticed VTEC wasn't kicking in. So probably this strainer around the VTEC solenoid is clogged, so I'm gonna get that sorted by replacing the gasket again have a better quality gasket, so that should rectify that issue. So like I said, it drives good. Still quite powerful even without VTEC. So I can just imagine how powerful it will be once this VTEC is in operation. So, but I'm glad the car moves, no more overheating problems. It was really quite unpleasant, but you shouldn't give up. The thing about old cars like this is that they provide rich learning opportunities. But obviously, if you're going to be doing some job again, you need to do things differently so that you get different results. The suspension is quite sorted, as you can see. The road isn't the best and it drives pretty good over bumps. So fellas, the Honda Accord is up and is up for good. Drives really good. See? At the beginning of this restoration, we did a lot of work to the suspension and that feels really good. Even without VTEC kicking on, still feels quite powerful. So it can definitely be driven this way. But like I said, I'm going to have it sorted out. The major reason why I chose this car was because of the suspension. Many years ago, I came across a vehicle. Actually, I drove it. It belonged to my dad, and it had the double wishbone suspension. It had this immense kind of grip, and since then I've been looking forward to getting a car with that kind of suspension. And this Honda Accord definitely ticks all the boxes. It has double wishbone suspension all round, so cornering handling is definitely much better compared to the Avances. The only thing I'll say about it is definitely it has more ball joints, 2 ball joints instead of 1, and then it can be quite tedious to work on, but the smiles per mile, I mean the kind of satisfaction you get once it's all done and working fine is all worth it. So that's it. The Honda Accord is alive finally. So with that, we come to the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it and you also found it informative. Don't forget to leave me a like. Also subscribe if you're yet to subscribe. Also leave a comment down below. What would you have done in my situation? I look forward to reading all your comments down below. Don't forget to also share the video. Thank you very much for watching, and in the next video we're going to be addressing all the other minor issues the car has. So till then, have a nice day.